explore different career options and gain industry insights from our different panelists. We want this panel to be as interactive as possible, so we will open the panel for audience questions later. When we do, please indicate that you have a question just by using the raise your hand function on Zoom. And then if you do have a question, please just be prepared to unmute your microphone so you can ask the panelists your question. With all that being said, I'd like to open up for our panelists to introduce themselves. Alex, if you could start us off, can you just briefly share your name, pronouns, company, and current role?
Hey everyone, excited to be here. My name is Alex. I graduated USC class of 2012 with a degree in aerospace engineering from Viterbi. I'm currently the co-founder CEO of a tech startup called TrueWind. We went through YC in the winter 23 batch, so earlier this year, raised a $3 million seed round, and we're building an AI-powered bookkeeping and finance solution. It's an very exciting time to be building an AI. We started TrueWind last November, right as ChatGPT came out, and it captured my imagination as well as many others around the world. Before starting this company, so out of school, I spent some time at Boeing as an aerospace engineer, spent 5 years there building the 777X, spent a bit of time in venture capital, and have been building startups for the past 5 years. I like skiing, I like golf, I like poker. Those are my hobbies outside. That's it.
Sounds good. Thank you. Joel, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Joel Hensel. I graduated from Viterbi, USC in 2014. I was industrial systems engineering. Right now, I'm a principal solutions engineer at a Series C startup called Noodle.ai. We do supply chain planning software that's enabled by machine learning and AI. Before that, I was in consulting. I was at McKinsey, Deloitte, and EY working on supply chain planning, digital IT solutions. Yeah, I'm based out of San Francisco, and outside of work, I enjoy my cat and my cat and my cat.
Love it.
And then Samuel, if you don't mind introducing yourself.
Hi, I'm Sam Chang, co-founder and co-CEO of Prometheus Data. I am a two-time Trojan. I obtained my master's in EE from Viterbi, and then recently finished my MBA at Marshall. Previously, I was an engineer at NASA JPL in Pasadena, California. Worked on 2 Mars missions. And now I am working on AI and data science to detect fraud, cross-border risk assessments for financial institutions on foreign borrowers.
Thank you. And then Craig.
Hey everyone, I'm Craig Schleicher. I'm with Snowflake, which is a cloud infrastructure provider that a lot of our customers are using for a broad range of analytics. We have a number of partnerships with partners in the AI and ML space. We do a lot of the foundational data infrastructure that data engineers use for their AI and ML workloads. And I'm on our sales strategy team helping figure out how do we talk about this and make it digestible, not just to technical buyers, but to business buyers. I am also probably the least tech savvy person on the panel. So I'm here to prove to everyone that there are jobs that you can do in AI and ML without being a hard coder or data scientist. And great meeting everyone.
Thank you. And then Ibo, do you mention?
Yeah. Hi, my name is Ibo. I graduated from USC in 2018. My major was communication data science, and then I'm a data scientist in Apple right now. It's been 4 years, and then prior to that, I worked at Warner Brothers as a data scientist as well. And then it's been a while, and it's great to be here. And I'm so glad to meet a lot of experienced professionals here. Some people even have a company right now. Yeah, glad to have this opportunity to know from you guys. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank all of you for introducing yourself. I just wanted to start off, I guess, Ivo, if I can pop it right back off at you. Can you just share why you chose AI and data science, maybe even necessarily how you got started in the industry?
From me first, or?
Excuse me?
Sorry. are you saying starting from me first?
Yes, if you don't mind.
Yeah, so initially was my path was kind of simple. Like initially I would just love, digging into the data and kind of know what's the insight behind that. So my choice at that time was kind of simple. Like I just want to apply for a master degree in data science or like marketing science, that kind of domains. Then I got admitted to USC. I went to the program, then a bunch of stuff about machine learning, data mining. I really enjoyed my time at Viterbi. And also I did like a research in the Information Science Institute and had a good time there with my professor. And then after that, kind of the more I learned about data science, the more like I was kind of intrigued by the industry. And then after I graduated, I started the career as a data scientist. And just for people who are from a non-technical background like me, it was actually kind of intimidating in the first semester. And, as time goes by, the more I was exposed to programming, to all kinds of concepts in artificial intelligence and also machine learning, the more comfortable I start to speak the tech language and also working with different people from different backgrounds, especially nowadays, like while working at Apple, I constantly working with all kinds of people who's, like data engineers, platform engineer, device engineers, also machine learning engineers. So it's always, fascinating to learn new knowledge from people who are very smart, or very intelligent, and, we always get pretty good experience from, talking with those people. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for that. Craig, do you want to share your experience at all and kind of just how, but why you ended up in AI and data science?
Yeah, sure. So it was a little bit of a circuitous path. I made the mistake of getting into consulting for 9 years and was focused in financial services. And most of my time consulting was banks trying to figure out how do we keep up with and compete with fintechs. And what they found was that a lot of the secret sauce of what made fintechs really effective, besides being really good at building software and design thinking, was also being very data driven. And so a lot of my time was spent thinking about how do we bring more data to banks? How do we change the way in which banks process transactions or use metadata to learn more about their users, link online and offline analytics, all of those fun topics. From that, I made the move to work for a bank to do just that in our digital product org, doing a lot of redesign work around our mobile banking experience and our customer analytics, and then made the move over to Snowflake because banks don't move fast enough, and I wanted to do something a little more cutting edge. And I would say that what I've found from both my own experience at the bank and now being on the other side of the fence at a vendor in this space is that really a lot of times our customers know exactly what they want to do. It's just a matter of matching the right skill sets and the right building blocks for them to be able to do it quickly. And that's a lot of what my role is at Snowflake, is really matchmaking between the technical building blocks and helping our customers figure out how to apply it to their business.
Great, thank you. Yeah, you both definitely have interesting experiences, but not originally starting in a technical background. And then Samuel, do you mind just sharing as well?
Yeah, as an engineer who built space cameras, data modeling is very important. I mean, once you send out the cameras to space, you can't bring it back and fix it. And how I got into more into the banking side, now that Craig said that bank is slow, engineering is a little slower because most of our projects are like 3 to 5 years. I'm coming on to the fastest track now. Business intelligence is one of the key drivers is data, AI and data. And you're able to provide this set of knowledge to senior management so that they can make key strategic decisions, especially when increased competition from digital transformation is happening. And because of this information asymmetry, you're able to become very valuable.
Great, thank you for that. And then Joel, if you have anything to add.
Yeah, I first got introduced to the world of data actually through a USC course. It was called Enterprise Data Architecture with Doug Shook. It was the best course I took at USC by far. But when I started my career, I didn't really go into the pure data route. I went into big enterprise IT systems. And those things are super important and necessary for business, but they're so large that it's probably echoing a theme the rest of you have said. It's a little bit slow to innovate. And the other thing is those enterprise systems, they might be super prominent now, but they do have a lifespan. Like some of these big IT systems that dominate the market now will eventually die. But data will last forever. And so I wanted to sort of hitch my career to a thing that will last forever and a thing that would innovate a little quicker than these large IT systems. I actually went back to get a master's of data science with my MBA and tried to pivot into the data science world, and then was excited to focus like my consulting career and now in product and software on more data science oriented products.
Thank you. Yeah, Alex?
So I didn't choose AI or data science. I chose to build airplanes, and I was an aerodynamicist there. So we did a lot around payload range, working with the customer. Got my MBA, and much of the decision making in my life was predicated on just areas of business that I found interesting. So after aerospace, I got really into finance and into venture capital specifically, and so for me, this foray into now building in the AI space is seeing the opportunity of using this new foundational technology to change the way an industry I used to participate in used to operate. And so for everyone on the call, this wave of technology is akin to what it was with internet and software, 20, 30 years ago. It's just a tremendous amount of opportunity. It's all green field again. And I think everyone should be looking to be building in this space. This is prime time. It's the most exciting time that we've had in a while.
Great, thank you. And then if we can just have maybe Craig start us off on just how, what have you found to be the challenges or benefits of working in AI and data science? Kind of just giving a lot of our students more of a look of what it really is like.
Yeah, so the biggest challenge is there are a lot of people who don't have a clear mental model for what AI and ML means. And I think it's really important to figure out what aspect of the field you want to work in. What I've found is that to be a top data scientist, and we have some really great ones at Snowflake that I work with day to day, and some great ones that are customers as well. You have to be really good at the coding and modeling side. You have to have really strong stats viewpoint, and you have to have really good communication and critical thinking skills to be able to work through how to approach the designs. It's not just about technical proficiency, it's a lot more than that. And so what I've found is that some of our data scientists are really strong at one of the three and over-index on that. Others are generous and can do all three well. There's an individual contributor path, there's a manager path, and the skill sets for those look very different. And even within the data science practitioner path, like the individual contributor path, you can be the one that's building and training models. You can be the one that is doing data wrangling and doing more exploratory work. You can be building infrastructure and be a solution architect or an enterprise architect that is setting up the environment to do it. There's a whole host of different build side roles. And then there's a ton of other people that are figuring out how to apply AI to their business, writing requirements for what the analysts are going to look into, and really thinking about how do I take all of these great technical capabilities and use it to solve business outcomes and deliver business value. And so the more you understand about the technical side of things and the what's possible and what isn't possible, the stronger you're going to be at any of those roles. And even if you decide that actually writing the AI models yourself and training them yourself is not the right place where you want to be, there are really interesting tangential roles that you can carve out opportunities where this is going to be a game changer because you speak this language and other people in your similar role don't. So encourage everyone on this call, kind of regardless of where you are on that technical spectrum, to make this something that you learn about and are passionate about.
Thank you. Yeah, I definitely think that's a great advice overall, especially with what to deal with in the industry. I guess, Samuel, Joel, do you guys have any additional stuff to add of what you've really found to be the challenges or benefits?
Yeah, I can go. Some of the challenges, at least in my firm, regulatory and compliance. AI and data science it's not a new concept. It's been around in the 1960s, 1980s. It's just that hardware now is cheap enough for everyone to use. And it's just that the policies can't keep up with this pace. And benefits, have most people ever heard of The Unknown by Donald Rumsfeld? He's Bush's Secretary of Defense. So AI and data science gives a little more insight to these unknowns. And so that in my previous job, we always have to make rat hole contingencies just in case something falls through. And with a lot of data science, we know that we might need to buy certain items beforehand, and especially with the geopolitical tensions, you might not get the item that you want. So I would say the challenges is regulatory and compliance on my side.
I would definitely echo Alex's comments on the benefits of the timing of AI and data science now with all the investment and hype. One of the challenges I see is that everyone needs to be a very critical thinker when parsing through this AI landscape, because every company is claiming that everything they do is now AI. Everyone wants to harness that hype and market their offerings, even if what they're offering is not really the cutting edge technology that many practitioners would identify as AI. And so it matters, if you're buying software or services and you need to determine if what you're getting is real. But from your perspective, the audience here, if you're looking for employment and you're looking at a startup or a company and they're marketing themselves as AI, to do some due diligence to make sure it really is what they're saying it is, and it's not just kind of some old-fashioned deterministic IT system that's being portrayed in a misleading way.
Yeah, I really resonate with that. I mean, every company that was just a regular software technology company 5 years ago, nowadays, they're just going to slap AI behind all their marketing material. And sometimes it's hard to look behind the curtain, right? This is where you just got to be smart, ask the right questions. And based off how they're answering it, you get a sense of, well, really, what are they doing with artificial intelligence? I resonate with that.
Yeah, I guess, Alex, Ivo, do you have anything else to add in terms of just significant challenges or benefits that you guys have run into?
I'm good. Ivo?
I'm good, yeah.
Okay, sounds great. We're just gonna offer now, if attendees, we just want to give you an opportunity to ask questions. I know for some previous panels, there were definitely a surplus of questions there, so we just want to give enough time. So just as I explained earlier, if you do have any questions to ask our panelists, if you can just use the raise hand function, and then we will just call on one of you. And so therefore, if you can just be prepared to unmute yourself and ask your question to our panelists. If not, if there's no questions yet or everyone's shy, do you have a couple more questions here for our panelists?
I think there's one that came through the chat.
Yeah, why don't we start off with that chat question? I guess, is there?
You're on mute.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Alex. If we can just start off with that chat question, if any of you guys have any specific answers about what steps to take or any specific recommendations. I'm just going to throw it out there to the panelists if any of you have a recommendation there.
I'd be happy to kick this one off. I've given this one quite a bit of thought. I see, okay, so there's this idea of an AI researcher. I'm not going to touch on that. At my company, we think a lot more about AI engineers. When I think about an AI engineer, I think of somebody that is full stack, more back-end leaning, with an above average ability to leverage LLMs to extract better outcomes out of them, the whole prompt engineering portion of it. But how do you take the functionality that we get with LLMs and embedding it into a software workflow that makes sense for the user? That's what I value in my world. And so when you ask questions about like what steps can you take to make yourself more experienced and employable in the field, number one, just become so in my world specifically where I'm hiring software engineers is like become an exceptional full stack engineer. And separately, play around with LLMs, the private ones as well as the open source ones. Stretch your imagination, stretch your thinking. If there's a problem that you face day to day and you think that there's an LLM solution to it, try to build it yourself using an open source solution. See what the outcomes are like. And if it's not good, try to pick something else. It's a lot of experimenting. So when it comes to like online courses, I less so recommend that, and I more so recommend just try to go build something. This feels a lot like the early days of the internet where people didn't really know what to make of this technology from a value add perspective, other than it could do cool things. And from cool things there will be born more business opportunities and very real value add. And that's how we think about it at our company.
I totally agree with Alex. The build it, simulate it, and also implementing it. Execution is by far the most important aspect. You need to be very technically savvy, but if you can't execute or implement, you're basically nobody.
Should we take the raised hand question?
Yep. Jordan, if you're ready to ask your question.
Yeah, this is kind of related to that point about, I guess, figuring out what aspect you want to work in. And I know at USC, there's a lot of ways to learn data science. Like I'm an econ and data science major. I know there's a lot of CS majors. And I guess relating to figuring out what aspect you want to work in, what kind of things should you focus on learning, things you should study, what classes you should take generally, what things should a student be doing now, depending on what they want to do in data science?
If no one takes it, I can take this one. Yeah. And so basically, I already graduated from USC like 5 years, right? So, but at that time, I think a lot of the fundamental artificial intelligence, machine learning courses are actually quite important, because like even with what we have right now, like the LLMs and like working as a data scientist, you still need to know all the basic stuff like statistics, all the traditional ML models. You don't want to be someone like who knows like how like prompt engineering works, but when you got like a tech interview and you got stuck when people asking you what's the difference between decision trees and then gradient boosting trees, and then what's the fundamental differences between this and that, and you don't want to get stuck for those questions. And also that reflects your basic knowledge of this of a data scientist like working in this industry. And also another thing is like a lot of good courses to take. Like that time I took data mining classes from at that time it was still informatics department. Now I think they renamed it into data science. And also I think there's a data science track under computer science departments, and they also have pretty good algorithm courses. I think one thing kind of overlooked for a lot of new grads, especially for data science like majors, new grads, they overlook the complexity like of their algorithms. A lot of people they're just calling Python libraries or what kind of like highly built-in like advanced packages, and then without knowing the complications of calling each functions or what kind of efficiency or latency calling those functions can cause to the production environment. And then when you work in the industry and working in production environment, a lot of times your leaderships they might ask you like, okay, why do we want to do this? What are the costs of doing this and to our business, to our product? And those are the things you have to take into consideration when you are implementing your code and making it more robust, more efficient. So those are the courses I would recommend to people, and I believe they should still have similar courses at USC at this point. Yeah.
Okay, and then if we can just cover one of the questions in the chat. If any of you want to answer this, you can totally grab it. But will doing a PhD in computer science help in your long-term career?
Yes, depending on what it is you're interested in doing. If what you want to be doing is something that is really cutting edge and you want to be hands-on coding and you want to be building models or you want to be doing AI research or anything in that category, it is hugely beneficial. If you are not of a technical lean, you can find just as interesting of opportunities without it, but it's going to push you down a path that is less technical and less of a research bent. And probably Alex can speak to that better than I can, but I think it's just a matter of you've got to know what you want to be working on and then figure out if it's the right credential for that. And the best way I've found in my career to do that is to go find some job descriptions that look really interesting. That's the job you want to have in 5 years. Don't focus on your next job, focus on your next job, and go see what they're hiring for and what they're asking for in the job description, and go build the skill set, build the portfolio, get some samples in your Git repository, and do the work that it's going to take for you to feel like you can go get the next job in a couple of years.
Also, just add up to.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, just add up to what Craig says. So like a lot of people are working in Apple. Actually, if you want to pursue like career path in like a big tech company, like a lot of people here, like most people in our team, they have a PhD degree. Doesn't necessarily have to be in computer science. They could be other, like neuroscience or double E. There could be all kinds of degrees. But one thing I observe in Apple is like we really appreciate people who have expertise in like very deep expertise in certain domain. So like even though we hire this person for maybe just a very general data scientist position, but in the future, like always business can shift their paradigms, and then we might have something in the future that's not really relevant to what we are doing right now. But for those people who have a PhD degree, they have very they have their expertise on like putting all those resources available there, like doing very deep analysis, and and also with very good dedication there, and to being able to carry on those programs. So in the long run, I figure those people like promotion wise, like being very, very realistic, like promotion wise, they get promoted like in general from what my observation, they got promoted much faster than like say a master or a bachelor degree student, right? But also you have to ask yourself, will you really enjoy being like studying for 5 years, 7 years to get a PhD degree? Because that's a lot of commitment there. And is that something you're really interested? Because you don't want to push yourself to do something you're not interested for 5 to 7 years just for the sake of getting promoted faster, right?
I'd like to add on from what Yibo said. A PhD, if you spend 5 to 7 years, you might miss this entire industrial timing and AI and generative stuff like that. That's one. And two, if you have a PhD and you are very focused on a particular item, and it shrinks down your hiring chances, actually. There are not a lot of institutions, non-research institutions, they have specific pockets that they only need a few PhDs in that area. Why would I hire a PhD if I can grab a master's or a undergraduate who has the same amount of experience to help me implement and execute what I need? So that's more of a caveat to getting a PhD.
Leave it to the founder to tell people not to get a PhD.
Yeah, I mean, if right now, don't waste your time, right?
Alex, do you have anything else to add?
Oh, no.
Okay, then Claude, if you just want to ask your question to the panelists.
Hi, yeah, I heard a lot of you guys were talking about how you were part of startups, and I wanted to ask two questions about that. So the first question would be, how was your experience starting a startup in AI or data science, and how do you think that differs from a more standard startup experience due to like copyright or rules or patenting rules that are either like less developed or more strictly developed? And then my second question would be, what do you guys think would be like a difference between working on data science for a small company or a startup versus large companies?
Joel, do you think you can touch on the second one while I think about my answer for the first one?
Yeah, well, for me, when I think about the difference between a small company and a large company, it's about the scope of impact. So at a small company, there are probably fewer data scientists. There's probably less organizational boundaries. And so you might be called on to tackle a variety of issues as it comes up. Your ability to sort of navigate the organization is pretty limitless. That being said, the organization, if it's smaller, it might have less mature practices in place for doing development work as some of the big sort of industry leaders like a Google. I think like at a Google, at a big company, you know, they're so large that they need to segment their organization into very specific silos, projects, teams. So you might be assigned something a little bit more specific, and maybe you're working on like Google Maps, and that means you're not really going to spend that much time working on Google Photos or something like that. And so there's that boundary. But I think the upside of those big organizations is there's such a thirst for talent in the data science world in for technical skills that some of those huge players are the ones who are sucking up some of the best talent in the world, and it's a great opportunity, especially earlier in the career, to learn from some of those people and from some of those processes that they've established at the big tech firms. Those are just my thoughts.
Thank you.
I'll touch a little bit on your first question. I'm not sure if I entirely got it right, but my reaction to it is I didn't start this company because it's an AI or data company. I started this company because the user that I am intimately familiar with, the financial analyst or the accountant, has this pain point that I know can be addressed with AI and LLMs. And so when it comes to starting a startup, for anyone who's thinking about doing that, always start from the user, figure out, understand everything and anything there is to know about them, and especially the pain points that they deal with. Always delineate between what's a vitamin and what's a painkiller. There's a lot of things that are nice to have, but you really need to hone in on what are the things that drive your user and your customer crazy and keep them up at night. And then think about the technology you need to go about solving that. And I think there's a lot of opportunity to solve a lot of pain points that we couldn't previously solve now with AI and LLMs.
Thank you.
If no one else has anything to add there, can we pass on to Chan to ask your question to the panelists?
Yeah, interestingly, I was also going to ask a question about startups because you guys are all entrepreneurs here, and sort of following on the question, I want to ask that do you suggest us to master AIs ourselves or find other people that understand AIs and sort of like Alex said, find the problems and propose solutions and actually like work on projects and find experts on the way to help us? Or do you suggest us like sort of take classes in AI, like develop our understanding first and then sort of work on these projects? So it's like learn from doing, or do after learning?
I think Craig earlier articulated nicely that, you know, within the AI ML world, there's a huge diversity of roles available, right? And they range. There's a huge spectrum from very technical roles to very functional roles. And really, it's about the path you should take first starts with a little bit of self-reflection or introspection about what you see yourself doing. Do you see yourself as a hands-on keyboard kind of person? Do you see someone in Python notebooks actually coding? Or do you see someone who's shaping the strategic direction of machine learning models, gathering requirements from customers, for instance, and then sending that to a team of data scientists? Where you're comfortable positioning yourself on that spectrum of technical to functional, or what you want your day-to-day to look like, is going to guide not just what like coursework to take or what credentials to get, but also the people you're going to need on your team to supplement your skills. So for instance, in consulting, I led machine learning implementations for customers. For example, we built this supply chain planning model for this big car company that you've all heard of, I can't say. But I didn't do any coding. I had a team of 4 data scientists and 3 data engineers. So I was involved with shaping the strategic direction of that project. I understood a little bit what the DSDE teams were doing, but I basically had to tell them what I needed for them to implement it. And that was because that's the role I wanted to play. I didn't want to be so technical. But you may want to be technical, and that may lead to a sort of diverging path of how to either operate in the workforce or start a startup organization.
I'd like to add that besides the technical work, domain expertise is very important. For example, you want to build a really nice, fast race car, but you'll have to ask a race car driver about limitations of cornering, what they need to understand, what they need to do. It's something that most engineers will never know.
One thing I want to add on here, because I went to business school as like Joel did, and thing that I hate hearing MBAs talk about is, oh, I want to start a startup and I'll do everything except the coding, except building the product. I'm like, what the hell are you doing starting a software company for then? Go start something else. So that's kind of my answer to your question. If you want to build something that is a software product and you don't know how to code, learn, or build something in no code. You need to go do something in that. And yes, like my co-founder is my CTO, and he does 90% of the building, but first version of the product, I built that, and then he joined, and then he took over all of it. So whenever I hear of a non-technical person talking about starting a startup, that's fine, and I think that's great. You should totally go do it. But you can't just say, I'm not going to touch the product at all, because that's literally what you're doing. You're building a product to start the company.
Thank you.
And Philippa, if you don't mind asking your question to the panelists.
Hello. Oh, I got the wrong camera on. I wanted to just say thank you. My question is about community, and I found like myself joining a bunch of communities, and I feel like it's expedited my learning so much. And so my question is about what communities you'd recommend, and if it's okay also to perhaps share some of the ones I've found, because I've become a Google Women Tech Makers ambassador. I just applied to be a Microsoft student ambassador. I'm just got an invitation, and everybody here is welcome to fill out the form as well, to Google to work on their AI LLMs in Los Angeles on September 25th and 26th. They're specifically looking for academics and practitioners, and they sent it to me to say, hey, please spread the word on this. And I've like joined like lots of Facebook groups, lots of LinkedIn groups, Telegram. I get like hundreds of books and resources I found. So other question, yeah, what communities do you recommend?
Most of the communities that I participate in are more around the product and growth as opposed to kind of the pure technical communities. I would say that it depends if what you want is a coding oriented community or a more soft skills oriented community. I mean, there's all of the kind of developer centric hubs out there that I'm sure everyone on this call is familiar with more than I am. But I tend to find, regardless of the topic, there are fantastic Substack newsletters I find newsletters that really resonate with me, and then I join the Slack community or Discord channel or whatever it is associated with that newsletter, and that's where I tend to have some of my best conversations professionally.
Awesome. No, thank you. Yeah, I think that's good. And I like, now that I'm getting more into the coding, there's so many more like subsets of all of this. Quite fascinating to sort of go down those rabbit holes. But I also I've got another 18 months in a Master's of Science in the spatial data science. So my specific niche is in GeoEnt AI.
Also, another opportunity to find the right community for you is maybe thinking about going to different conferences, like for like Grace Hopper, or there are a lot of like data science or like engineering conferences, like where there are a lot of community for you to join, and there are a lot of resources there. I have been to some of the conferences before, and then they all turns out to be like pretty good resources for me to networking and know people in the industry. Yeah.
And I'm asking this half for myself, but also just for everybody else's here as benefit as well. And one of the other things I've noticed is that a lot of these conferences, if you can't attend in person, they have like free digital passes, or they'll sort of put it up and you can go through. I know io.google has tons of amazing information about like when they did the Google Connect. And I know AWS is having one with a free digital pass, and Adobe and all the rest of them. So those are good places to lean in. But no, thank you for that. That's excellent. I appreciate it. And I yield. But if it's okay, I'll pop in the chat that Google invite if anybody's interested. They're definitely looking for academics and practitioners.
Thank you, Philippa. And then if we can just touch on more of the questions from the chat, just in the industry, either in tech or in fintech, are machine learning and AI research versus engineering roles very independent, or do professionals shift between them throughout their career?
I'll take the financial services one. I'll say it's an industry that hasn't necessarily adopted best practices in org structure when it comes to technical roles. And so you'll find that a lot of what I think of as product and engineering roles are sitting in an IT organization. And so they tend to be a little bit more siloed and a little bit more constrained. But then there's a whole host of jobs that are more in the applied AI ML category. And so you'll see job descriptions in financial services that are credit risk modeler or quantitative investment portfolio risk, or you name it. And so there are little, again, pockets of very highly specialized AI and ML applied positions. A lot of those tend to be ones that are looking for someone more at the master's level than a PhD level, and where they want someone that has more of kind of a stats and econ bent to it. And a lot of those roles are using low code platforms and other tools to reduce the dependency on kind of hardcore coding. So again, I think you end up getting very specialized, but that doesn't mean you can't make a pivot in your career. But the earlier in your career you make those pivots, a lot of times the easier it is.
I'll piggyback off that a little bit. I think I align with what Craig is saying. The delineation here being like, at what stage of your career are you thinking about this? I think in the earlier stages, like that first job, they may look more closely on, your exact background, but like later on, it becomes more about, just generally your problem solving skills. So when I look at AI researcher versus AI engineer, I think of two very distinct problems within my company. The AI engineer is figuring out how to take a standard LLM and applying it in an accounting or finance workflow. Okay, so that's like a full stack problem. Like I said, full stack backend leading with above average ability to use LLMs. On the flip side, we're also thinking, well, what does a finance specific LLM look like? How can we create a new foundational model based off of the data of our customers who want to participate in it? That becomes a very AI researcher type problem. And we will probably be looking for two different people to solve those problems. That's my take on it. So can you shift between them throughout your careers? I know with the example I just gave, I'm saying I'm looking for two different people, but if somebody is equally good at problem solving in both of those categories, then at the end of the day, we value, we go based off of merit, not based off of whatever your resume says.
then Adrian, did you want to just ask your question as well?
Hi, this one's specifically for Evo, but anyone can pitch in. I'm also a fellow communication data science student who has a background in neuroscience and sociology. How did you leverage your non-technical background to find data science jobs or internships? And are there any resources that you utilized during your time in the program or here at USC that you found profoundly useful?
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. So basically, since like my major was communication data science, I also have courses from Annenberg. We focusing on like the marketing stuff. My first job was actually a data scientist position in Warner Brothers, like, you know, the entertainment industry, focusing on or more on the marketing science side. So like it's kind of like a combination between, you know, marketing and data science. So I would say definitely trying to take advantage of your expertise on those two domains instead of like just data science, right? And also for resources, yeah, besides the coursework at USC, also I figure like for me personally, my research assistant experience at the Information Science Institute was very helpful for me. At least it gets me very comfortable speaking with, you know, very tech savvy people like, you know, PhD students or scientists, computer scientists from different backgrounds. So that's one thing I observed, like very kind of overlooked for a lot of like graduate students who are at school, like it's like speaking with people from different backgrounds, getting comfortable, like to ask questions, say, hey, I don't know this, or like, how could I know this in the most efficient way? Like, that's kind of like a process, like, you know, it would be nice to overcome at school instead of like getting that issue at work and not feeling comfortable about asking questions to your managers or to your team. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, if no one else has anything to add, I would just like to open it for Sanjana to ask their question.
Hello, I have two questions if that's all right. First of all, what are some of the biggest challenges or obstacles that you would face in a large company or even a startup within the field of EI, and how can your company be addressing them?
Wait, can you repeat the question one more time, please?
Yes, so what are some of the biggest challenges or obstacles that you would face in your company in the field of AI, and how would you be addressing them?
I'll take a stab at this one. I think for a startup like mine, data security is one of the, I guess, challenges. You need to be compliant, especially if you're touching financial, if you're in the financial industry, you need to be compliant with the government. Thank God, AWS has some sort of like program for that. In a big organization like my former place, and that's the JPL, it's a very slow moving organization. Adoption is a little slow. If you want if only particular teams to use AI for modeling, it could be fast, but if you want the entire systems people to use it, then I think the adoption rate needs to be, it'll be a little slow.
Thank you. My last question is, what advice would you give to students or individuals who are interested in pursuing this career?
Like what Alex said, you have to get your hands dirty. Got to do it.
I recently interviewed a candidate who ex-military, spent a few years working in at NASA actually, and then found his way into a software, like a legal tech company. And the thing that impressed me most about him was he sent me a link to his portfolio, and basically the guy just spends all of his free time trying different things. He was spending a lot of time interviewing for jobs, so he built like a ChatGPT, interviewer for him to practice against. And I'm like, shoot, you should find a way to like monetize this. But he doesn't know how to think from a business sense. He just knows how to tackle a problem, see a problem, and try to figure out a way to address it. It's just such a fun. You have this new shiny toy in front of you, and now's the time to start playing with it. So to all the questions around what classes, what's the best way to get started on this, is go play with it. And starting with, I'm sure all of you have played with ChatGPT at this point, get an account, go into their playground. There's a lot of ways that you can experiment with it. That's the best way to get started and really show that you have a curiosity and an ability to tackle these problems.
Okay, just since we have a little bit more time, Anastasia, do you want to ask your question?
Sure. I wanted to ask about, since at the kind of beginning of the panel, they really compared kind of like the AI ML bubble right now to the kind of .com boom. And, you know, even mentioned that spending 5 to 7 years in a PhD can kind of like offset you from the timeline of where the field is right now. Is there already kind of a forward look at to the possible like pop of this bubble and how that will be kind of like handled, and like the kind of directions that people are thinking things will kind of go beyond the kind of like really incredible rise that we're seeing in this field right now?
Anyone have opinions on markets?
Bring out the crystal ball right now, right? Oh dear. It didn't come from me, right? This is recorded. But yeah, you see, so from the .com, from the internet, like the history of internet, we got so much data out there right now. AI, if you will, data science. It's now a time where you can aggregate all that data so that you can pull information fast. I mean, the term we use, let's Google it. Google has been able to, you know, when you ask a question on the bar, it pulls up kind of pretty close to what you need. But if you want to dive deeper into certain items, you need to go through several links just to see if everyone's agreeing to the same information or not. There's still a lot of false information out there that you need to like sift through. So, you know, with the new, improved version of AI, you have these better hardware out there to run models. You're able to grab the information that you need specifically for a specific item much faster. And it'll be, some algorithms or filtering can be done so that it'll be very accurate. I think it's pretty much kind of here to stay for a little bit. Next tool for us.
Okay, well, thank you to all the panelists, especially for doing a great job in the chat of answering everyone's questions as well. I just want to thank you guys for sharing your insights with us on the industry. And I also want to thank our students for attending and asking such great questions. I hope that this gave everyone a better understanding of AI and data science. I guess I would like to open it up to any of the panelists if there is any last advice that you'd really love to give USC students as alum who are working in the industry.
Yeah, I think the one thing I would say is, you know, there's a lot of attention paid to the technical development of models. I think one of the worst things we can do as data scientists is to develop a model and just drop it into the laps of the stakeholders. Anytime you develop a model, you need to very carefully consider what business process or what process is it being integrated into? Who are the stakeholders who are using it? Where are the model outputs going? Is it feeding people or other IT systems? All these things, you're trying to integrate these models into existing processes, existing people doing work in a certain way. And the models don't have any impact if people don't adopt them and use them. So always think about the context of the model you're developing and make sure that adoption is taking place by considering all those factors beyond just the Python notebook.
once again, thank you all. And just as a wrap up for all of our USC students, Industry Insights is a series of panels that the Career Center is hosting. So we will also be having sessions on entertainment and community engagement upcoming. And then there's also more details about our other panels and just other USC career events, whether that's on-campus recruiting or Trojan Talks on ConnectSC or careers.usc.edu. But yeah, thank you all for joining us today, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your evening.
Thanks, everyone. It was a ton of fun.
Thank you, everyone.
Sure.